PT of 50-50-50. They must express interest and they have to be invited. And a very important criterion is that they must be under 45 for skill migration. They must be under 45. Yeah, skill occupation list. I do tell people that, of course, for skill migration pathway, you need an occupation on that list. If your occupation is not there or whatever you are studying is not there, it's good to align your course to any occupation that is on that list, because that's what they look at. And before the end of this year, they are going to revise the list of occupations. They flagged a lot of occupations, to be removed from the list, and why some will be left there. So I would recommend that you visit the website, Department of Education website, where the skill occupation is currently is in draft format and consultation is ongoing. So most especially on the occupations that have been flagged to be removed from the list. So please let that guide your decision. Okay, so point system, very important. We need to understand point system. Australia uses point system for the invitation. Okay, so then they've allocated points based on several factors: age, qualification, overseas experience, Australia work experience, professional year, English test study in Australia, and so on and so forth. So you can get the point calculator, check your points. For example, if you are between 25 and 32, you have maximum points, which is 30 points. Then if you have PhD, you have 20 points. If you have Masters of BSc, that are equivalent to Australia bachelor degree. Let me emphasize that. Bachelor degree that is equivalent to Australia bachelor degree will give you 15 points. If it is not equivalent, it will not give you 15 points. There's some bachelor degrees particularly from overseas countries, that are not equivalent to Australian bachelor degree. So in that case, you cannot claim 15 points. So whatever the assessment tells you, assessment we advise, assessing authority, we advise, you see that on your assessment, the skill assessment letter, that your degree is an associate degree. For example, if it is an associate degree, so what that means is that you cannot claim 15 points. You can only claim 10 points. If you go ahead to claim 15 points in your expression of interest, you will have issue during the visa decision. The visa will be refused if the points you claim at the time of invitation is not up to the points, accessible points at the time of assessment. Then the visa will be refused. We have to be careful about that. All right, so there are other components. English test, superior English will give you 20 points. So these are standard, these are factors they use to allocate points. Studying regional areas, studying STEM related, spouse, being single, state nomination, yeah, we give you points. Now, quickly just mention some of these visa. We have skill independent visa, which is 189 visa. So I've mentioned some of these mandatory criteria that must be met before one can, apply for this visa. The key point here is that your skill occupation must be on MTSS list, medium to long-term strategic skill occupation list. So if your occupation is there, that shows you can apply for 189. But if it's not there, you cannot apply for 189. 189 allows you to live permanently in Australia and in any part of Australia. That's the difference. Then 190 is also a permanent resident, but in this case, you have to be nominated by the state. That's just the difference. You have to be nominated by the state, and your occupation can be on short-term skill occupation list. All right. Both also all the scheme migrations, general scheme migration, you need 65-point pass mark. It's just a pass mark. If the higher your points, the better. Then we have visa 191, which is skill work regional visa. It's a provisional visa, meaning that you can stay and you can live, study, and work in the regional area of Australia, for at least 3 years before you can apply for your permanent residence. The requirement for visa 191 is just live, work, and study in any part of Australia, okay? And any part of Australia, excluding the city, the cities. Cities are just three locations: Brisbane, Greater Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney. Every other place is a regional area. So once you live, work, and study for 3 years in those places, you'll be eligible for 191. And you don't need to earn a certain amount of money. All right. So just ensure that you live there and you provide 3 tax returns. That is 3 financial year. You provide tax returns, and that's all. That's all you need. And the good thing about 191 visa for the singles, or for those that married after they obtained the visa, is that the family members can be added straight away to it. So, for example, if you married while you are maybe a year to go, after you have completed your 3 years as the primary applicant, it's only the primary applicant that needs to complete 3 years on that visa. So if you marry, you can then include your wife, your spouse into your this thing. Even if your spouse does not hold 491 visa, she can get 191 straight away. So that's the point I'm trying to make. Now, new Australia migration strategy. They recently introduced some changes, and that's what I want to focus on now. So they've increased English language requirement for international students. International students to 6.0 for universities. People are applying to higher educations. Also, people that want to apply for temporary graduate visa, which has now changed. They've changed the names now. We have 2 streams: post higher education stream and also post vocational stream. They've increased the IELTS requirement, English requirement, to 6.5, and it has to be done within 12 months. So that's one thing they've done. And also, another thing is they've introduced genuine student test. To me, it's just a replacement of GT. It's the same thing, just that they've introduced it into the application. All you need to do now is to copy whatever you've written in your GT and put them in your application. So it's just the same thing. So, but the reason why they've introduced that is just to streamline the applicant, to know the students that are genuine, that are coming to study genuinely. Okay. Another thing they've done is that people who are on student visa onshore, they have to demonstrate progression in their career or academic aspiration before they can be granted another student visa. So what that means is that if you completed a master's program, so by coursework, if you want to switch back to, say, another master's program by coursework, then your visa may be refused. But if you are demonstrating progression, say you want to do a PhD or master's by research like MPhil, yes, they may consider it. So they're trying to switch from one visa to the other, particularly student visa. After used up their student visa, they use that to buy time. So that has stopped. So what that means is that you need to use your student visa judiciously to avoid being refused. Then they've increased the fees. The student visa fees has been increased to 1,600 from 710. All right. So they've introduced restriction on onshore visa application. For those who are using student visa, other visas, temporary visas to apply for student visa, like temporary graduate visa holder can no longer apply for student visa. Once you have used up your graduate visa, either as a primary applicant or dependent, you can't go back to student visa. That's one thing they've done. The visitor visa as well, you can come in on visitor visa and then apply for student visa. They've stopped that, and these other visas as well. I know most of these visas do not. We are not bothered about them. The most important visas here is just the 600 and 485. So once you hold a 600, you cannot apply for another student visa. So they've introduced that now. Yes, so like I said, they've introduced two streams. They just replaced the existing stream, with those two distinct. And then also another thing they've done is that the work right extension for select degrees has stopped as well. So before 1st of July, people that study select degrees, maybe in some specific fields, they can get 2 years extension, but that has stopped now. But second visa, TGV, temporary graduate visa, is still applicable to those who studied in the regional areas of Australia, either 1 year, depending on where you study, 1 year or 2 years. People that study in major regional areas will get 1 year, but people that study in other regional areas will get 2 years. Major regional area, for example, Gold Coast is a major regional area, whereas a place like Hamidale in New South Wales is other regional areas. So you will get 2 years addition. Now, another change, another thing they brought is they reduced the age to 35 years and younger from 50 years, except for master's by research and PhD. Yes, that's a big change, which I believe will have impacted a lot of people. So unfortunately, that's what it is. What it is, they've reduced the age to 35 years now. And although if you are more than 35 years but less than 36 years, you are included. You can still apply, because you can say if you have someone how old are you? If the person is 35 years plus 11 months and say 29 days, they won't say 35 years, 11 months and 29 days, but rather it would just say I'm 35 years. If it's not yet 36, it won't say I am 36. So that's the meaning of that of that particular age, because we've taken it back to as a in our forum in our Migration Institute of Australia. We've taken it back to the department to ask for the explanation of that particular age, and I think they got back to say, well, that's what it is. So that 35 years but less than 36 can apply. Okay, sometimes the English can be somehow the way they've written the legislation, the instruments, and also the laws can be somehow. So you have to get proper interpretation. Now TGV will now be processed faster, 21 days. That's what they've given. Another thing they introduced is that previously you can't use graduate certificate or graduate diploma, but now they've included them as part of the qualification that you can use for postgraduate. So if you study postgraduate visa, graduate certificate, or graduate diploma, you can use it together with your master. Say, for example, you did a graduate diploma for 1 year and a master for 1 year. That will be fine. Unlike before, you cannot do that. But now, that's fine. So long you study for 2 years in Australia. Okay, so the length of postgraduate graduate visa has been reduced. Bachelor now has 2 years, Masters by coursework 2 years, Masters by research 3 years, and PhD 3 years. That's all you can get. So you need to actually utilize the postgraduate visa very well. There are other changes coming which has not been implemented. They are going to, modify the or revise the skilled occupation list, like I mentioned, and then also some other pathways for primarily employer sponsor visa will be released. Then we have HK industry labor agreement now for those people that work in that sector. So there's labor agreement. Any employer that signs up with the government can actually sponsor an employee for labor agreement 482 visa, and there is a pathway to permanent residency. Okay. Yeah, I've mentioned this. Let's move on. So point system also will be revamped before the end of the year. They are working towards that. Then talent and innovation visa will replace global talent visa. Recently they did invite people to apply for visa 189. That was on the 13th of June. So based on that now, I can see that they may likely be inviting twice in a year, based on what happened in the last financial year. So in December and June, most likely. Now, they invited few occupations in June, about 5,000 of them, 5,000 plus 5,292 for 189 visa. Now, occupations that receive an invitation, look at some of these occupations that they are trades related occupations, and they invited them based on 65 points, just 65 points. They invited carpenter, bricklayer, roof plumber, stonemasson, and so on and so forth. However, there are other occupations, like all these skill level 1 occupations. Man, like accountant, 100 points. So the people that got invited scored 100 points. Most other skill level 1 occupations, you see that 95, 85, 95 mainly, apart from those trades related. The list is out there. You can check skill select to see some of those occupations that were invited. But what I've seen there is that even the registered nurses, the points, the points they invited was really high, 85 points. Like I said, in December they invited 8,300, and in June they invited 5,292. Now, this is the planning for this year, immigration planning level. So each year the Department of Immigration, allocates, visa for each stream, like skill under skill. Last financial year was 36,000 for employer sponsor visa, was 36,825. But this financial year, that has increased to 44,000, slots. So what that tells us is that employer sponsor visa will be will be popular in this financial year. That will be more that is juicy, so to say. So if you work with an employer, and because they have more allocations in this financial year, so what I do tell people is that approach your employer and throw it to them that, see, I'm open for sponsorship. I don't know if you can sponsor me or not. They have the allocation, and guess what? It's really fast these days. Within days, they've processed some of these visas with employer. But look at skill independent. Last financial year was 30,375 allocated. Of course, they didn't use it up. So the total number invitation issued last financial year for skill independent was actually less than 14,000 number visas or applicants. Now look at this financial year now, almost more than, up to or close to to the half of what of last year allocation. So what that tells us is that this year is going to be competitive for skill independent visa. So it's really going to be competitive. All right. So if they invited people with 100 points, I don't know what the points would be this year. So how about regional visa? 32,300, 33,000, at least 700 more. So regional visa was almost the same for this financial year. State nominated visa is 33,000, I mean, 3,000 more. Interestingly, Queensland has, I mean, what I read it on the news, it's not official yet, but they've asked for reduced number of slots. They've asked for reduced number of slots. I guess because of you know, property renter, heated renter market. So that's why. But other states have asked for more, like Western Australia, for example, asked for 5,000 slots because they need people over there. As a matter of fact, for other Dama, they asked for 5,000, additional 5,000, making 10,000 altogether. So, but Queensland asked for reduced number for state nomination. Okay, Global Talent 4,000, and then the altogether 132,000 for this financial year. The other ones like family, you know, there are no changes as such. You know, altogether we have 185,000 slot for this year. That's the migration planning for this year, as against 190,000 last year. So less than 5,000. And we know where that came from, mainly from skill independent. Skill independent got reduced. No, all right. So I'll just mention a few things about before we jump into question and answer. Um, Things that people do that you just have to be wary of. You need to be aware of them. Non-compliance with your visa condition is a big one. Please try as much as possible to comply with the condition of your visa. If your visa says you have to maintain enrollment in the course at the same level or higher, please stick to it. For example, if you are granted a visa to study, you know, for master's degree, don't downgrade on your course by studying a bachelor degree without applying for a new visa. You need to be granted a new visa. If you need to do that, be granted a new visa before commencing that particular course. It's a big one with immigration. Okay. Maybe you might have heard from people that, oh, people do it and they go scot-free. No, it's a breach of their condition. The fact that people do it and they go scot-free does not mean that it is right. So we have to be careful of that. Or studying not maybe visa holder not like visitor visa who that's working on their visitor visa. That's a breach of the visa conditions. All right. So very important. And not studying full time too is a breach of your visa condition. There are other conditions. Please just pay attention to the visa condition and make sure you stick to it. Not seeking professional advice. That I can't say that enough. You know, I have I have seen a lot people do nasty things, costly mistakes. You know, recently someone applied for PhD. I mean, he completed his PhD here and applied for his postgraduate visa. He did not include English test. He got a reference letter from his university that he was taught in English, and that was what he used in lieu of his English test. Guess what? Within weeks, the visa was refused. Now, the only option for him is to buy time. So, and when he approached us, and he could not even go out and then reapply from outside because he's bar already. He doesn't, as at that time, he didn't have a visa. He only had, he was on a bridging visa. His student visa had already expired. So he could not go out. The only thing is to buy time with AAT. And I told him point blank that there is no this thing here because the question AAT we ask is, did the case officer make a mistake? Was there a jurisdictional error when the case officer was deciding your case or not? That's the only question they want to ask. And if there's no jurisdictional error, then the decision of the case officer, the department, will be upheld. So what that means is that you will not have time. You will not have any other option than to go to Federal Circuit Court, and you will keep spending money. And if you go to court, the only question they want to ask: did the AAT make mistake? And if it turns out that you waste the time of the court, you will pay heavily for that, and you will be spending money. These are mistakes people make, even not using the right police certificate. In Australia, if you use state police certificate instead of Australia Federal Police Certificate, then it's an issue. Another thing that I need to bring to our attention, which I know a lot of people make mistake about, is using applying the same day they got their what's it called? They finished their program. You have to apply a day after. That's what the law says. You cannot apply the same day you got a notification of completion of your program. Okay, if your program say you completed that program, say today 7th of July, you cannot apply on the 7th of July. You have to wait a day after. Also, you cannot apply on the same day you got your police certificate. So you have to apply a day after. These are things that we need to be aware of. Okay. And that's the reason why it's always good to seek advice. Don't say, well, I am smart, I can. Is it not to fill form? It's more than that. There are things that you need to understand. That even the English requirement. You may say, well, my IHS exam resources, my English is valid for 2 years. That's what you see on the result. But then the rule, the migration legislation says English has to be within 12 months. It must not be more than 12 months. So there's a conflict here, but you need to understand you have to follow the legislation, the rules, the law. Now, don't become unlawful. It's very key. Don't withdraw from school due to an application for a partner visa. If you have applied for a partner visa, you need to wait until partner visa is granted before you withdraw from school. I do see that a lot of people make that mistake. And also, don't provide bogus document or misleading information. If you had a refusal before to any country, declare it. They won't crucify you for that. But if you fail to declare it, they will find out and they will flag PIC 4020. So that you have misled the department, and that attracts a ban. There's no way you want to argue it. Although people say, if you have genuine reasons that maybe it was an honest mistake. For example, I once did something that a lady applied. I did a student visa for that lady. So she once had a visa refusal to Canada, but she declared that. I think to US, she and the husband applied to the US. She was a dependent, so both of them were refused. But she didn't declare the other part, the US part, but she declared the Canadian visa part. All right. Why didn't you declare it? It was later I got to know. She said because she was not the main applicant. That was why she felt that it wasn't an issue. So the department found out, and they got back to me to say, explain. They sent me a natural justice letter that we should explain why this thing was so. So I had to explain that, look, it was an honest mistake. And the visa was granted. But sometimes it doesn't work. A case officer will just go ahead and say you are misleading us. Bogus document. Make sure that whatever document you are providing is genuine. Your reference letter is genuine. your bank statement is genuine. I've seen bogus bank statement, and they verified, and if they discovered that it was a bogus one. So, and the visa was refused eventually. Not studying courses, I mean, studying courses not related to occupations on the list. That's a mistake a lot of people do make. If you study a course, let it align with a course that is on the list. Okay, very important. I know I've seen people, someone who came to study international relations, for example, in the past, and I haven't. When I had a chat with him, I told him straight away, this will not help you. If you have mind of getting your PR, you need to change your course. Thank God that he listened, he changed to social work, and eventually he got his PR. So study a course that is related to skill occupation. Studying courses that require work experience component for skill assessment, that's very key. VETASES is one of the assessing organizations that it requires that the applicant must have at least 1 year work experience for a positive skill assessment. And sometimes the work experience must be a post qualification, not in all cases, but sometimes it must be a post of qualification. So if someone who came to study environmental management, at master's level without work experience, it will be difficult to get a job. And by so doing, so by so doing, the person may not be able to get work experience for the skill assessment, and that means spending that much to study, getting post-study visa, and yet you are unable to get your PR. Avoid that. Do something that may not necessarily require work experience for you to get your skill assessment done. Like ACS, for example, all you need is professional year in lieu of work experience. Or if you have one work experience, at least minimum of 1 year, if you'll be fine. TRA as well require job ready. Job ready program is incorporated into their program. So once you complete that, you complete any trade related courses, and then you complete job ready program for 1 year, then you will get skill assessment. And any engineering does not need work experience. Um, Accounting does not need work experience, but accounting is highly competitive. I think is the most competitive occupation, accountant. So nursing, all these health related, particularly nursing, do not need work experience because they've done placement as part of the program. All these community services do not need work experience post qualification, so they do placement, like likewise social work and others. So I will advise, refer to the list, to get your this thing, so that you avoid doing a course that is not that requires work experience. Okay, let me skip some other things. I think I've mentioned them. Studying on accredited courses, we have to avoid that at all costs. Some courses are not accredited. Just I think it was yesterday or so, somebody called me and said, "Oh, I did a diploma in community service." I just mentioned. I mean, it was on Friday. Which school? I said, no, not on Friday. This last week. So I said, which school? I mentioned the school. I said, the course you study is not accredited. I know that for sure because Aqua, I am familiar with some of the accredited programs. And I told him that, look, if what happened is that you need work experience before you can be assessed, because you did an unaccredited program, you must have 2 years work experience before you can get assessment with Aqua. All right. So, but assuming he had done maybe um, an accredited course, he does not need work experience to get, positive skill assessment with Aqua. So we have to be careful about that. And some people do RPL. If you take RPL in community services, take it to what's it called, Hakwa, it will not fly. Particularly if the RPL is more than 40% of the courses, of the subjects. If it's more than 40%, it will not fly. Okay. And another mistake people make is not making the best use of the post-study visa or graduate skill visa, not making the best use of it. Then you can't be running etasketa, and after when the post-study visa is about to expire, you need to make use of it. If you need to take trade courses, take it during that time. Now, fast track process. How do we fast track this process? I do tell people enroll for professional year. Even if you have enough work experience, enough points. Like someone in my office recently is a software engineer. He had, at the moment, he has 95 points. And guess what? Last invitation that was done, they invited software engineer on 100 points. So it's short of 5 points. So the only way to get 5 points is to do anything extra. So any point you get matters. So go for points. Do professional year. If you study here, maybe IT related, accounting or engineering, that extra 5 points, it will go a long way. Also, score superior English. Score superior English if need be. Please go for it. It will help you. Superior English that is, if you score 888 in IS, you get superior English. Or in PT, if you score 79, 79, 79, you get superior English. Go for it. Now, also look for job in your nominated or closely related occupation. That will give you extra 5 points. For example, if you work for 1 year, it will give you extra 5 points. And also, in some states, they look at your work experience before they assess you. They look at before they can give you nomination. They look at your work experience in some states. So go for it. Try. Don't say, well, you can't. Somebody recently got in touch with me. I think the guy came in way back in. He's been here for years, and he did social works. I scream at him. I say, "What have you been doing all this while? Why didn't you use your social work?" And if I think that he finished in 2018 or so. I know this why, and now age has caught up with him, and the wife also is above 40. What can we do? I advise the wife, okay, you are the only one that that has hope now. This and this and this are what you need to do. Wrong with this, they said, according to them, they said, well, we didn't get the right information. Well, at the end of the day, the onus lies on you. You should seek for the right information. Get the right information. And that was the mistake they made. A lot of people make mistakes. You can avoid mistakes. It's just like someone who wants to build a house. Go to an architect, let him draw a plan for you, run with the plan. Don't distort the plan. I remember, a sister came into me through a sister here in Sydney. We told her, look, we know you want to live in Sydney, but guess what? Sydney is too competitive, it's tight. Go to Tasmania, for example. This is what you should study social work. And she said, well, I wanted to do counseling. No, this is not about what you like to do. Cross the bridge first. If you cross the bridge of getting your PR, then after which you can do whatever you like. But for now, these are things you need to do. She went to Tasmania. She completed her social work. She applied for a postgraduate visa. She applied for her PR and she got a PR and she's back in Sydney now with her family. That's it. That's the joy. If you run with the information, it's just a matter of time you get things sorted. Okay? I don't like this because people consider regional area if need be. All right. Don't say, well, until I get PR. No, things are changing. If you get regional visa, why not? Go for it. 3 years after, you get your PR. It is better to have, something handy than to be waiting for PR. I'm a man of faith, but I'm providing professional advice here. That look, a brother in my church did the same thing. He applied for 491 visa, and while the visa was being processed, he got another invitation for PR. What I did, I applied for another visa PR for him, and withdrew that 491. At least a bird in hand is better than two in a bush. So these are things you need to do. Don't waste any opportunity that comes your way. Immigration in Australia is very complex. It's very complex. Things are changing every now and then, and it's dynamic as well. So whatever opportunity you have, grab it. Enroll in courses that are in demand. And you can see from skill occupation list and from the recent invitation, those trades related occupations are in demand. Health related occupations are in demand. You may say, well, I came as an international student, I came in, to study masters. Look, there's nothing stops you from taking another course alongside. I prefer that solution to two people recently, 2 years ago. That look, take another course, that you can cope with. Take it. It could be 6-month course. For example, some of the trade courses, they are 6 month, max 1 year, because they are mainly certificate 3 or certificate 4, and certificate 4 maybe 1 year at most. And once you finish that, you can then do job ready program. Although you need to work full time, because job ready program is a paid, program. They will pay you. Employer will pay you, and guess what? You use that to do your skill assessment, and at the same time, you can use that for points. So, say for example, if you work 1 year, do your job ready program for 1 year, you get paid. Not only that, you can claim 5 points for working in Australia, and you also use that for your skill assessment. So you might say, well, I can't do that on a visa. On my student visa. Yes, you can do that on your last year of your program. Say, for example, if you are running your program, your master's for 2 years, do it on the second year, such that by the time you finish, you apply for your post-study visa, you'll be given, if for masters now, you will be given 2 years, and then use the first year to do your job ready program and use that for assessment and be on the queue, for 189 invitation. And states as well. States need, but although I'm not sure if Queensland needs some of these trade occupations as such. They've not released their guideline for this year. I know Queensland is one of those states that choosy in terms of who to invite, and they don't actually give preference per se, to people apart from PhD holders and those who are working in their field. Very important. People who are. That's why I can't emphasize on working in your nominated occupation enough. Please, if you live in Queensland, ensure that you work in your nominated occupation. It will count for you, or you have a job in that, it will count for you, because that's what Queensland does over time. All right. Now, another thing I would like to mention here is that there is no, hope is not lost. Hope is not lost. For with God, nothing shall be impossible. I believe so strongly. I know someone came into church some times ago. Actually, it was about 45. I was speechless. I didn't know what to say to him. But he believed that God will make a way. As soon as he came to complete his PhD, and as soon as he finished his PhD, guess what? They introduced Global Talent. He had not even done his convocation, and he was invited to apply for visa, and today he's a permanent resident. In fact, they are citizens now, because he spent 1 year on a permanent resident and then became citizen. Lastly, what I need to mention this. Okay, a lot of people, I know this may come up during question and answer. That okay, now we are on our 485 visa and we are told we cannot switch back to student visa because of this new rule. What should we do? If you still have enough time, those trade courses will be very handy. You can still run that within 1 year. Okay, consider those trade courses. Now, also for those who are above 35, who are currently studying, and this age thing has affected them, what should you do? What I would say is that nothing stops you from applying for another student visa so long that the course you can show progression in your career or in your academic pursuit. So I would say consider PhD, consider masters by research. If you apply for masters by research and it's in line with what you studied, so why you have that? Because if you are a master by research student, you can work on limited hours. If you have PhD, if you are running a PhD, you can work on limited hours. So why doing that? Consider some of the trade courses alongside, combine it together. Before you know it, you are just using that so to say to buy time, and you can use that will always be a way out. That's one thing I know, and government can change hand as well. Things may change, and new government may bring in their policy. We've seen it a lot. Like I said, immigration is always changing. So hope is not lost. With God, all things are possible. Thank you. All right, I'm open to answer your questions that you may have.
Thank you, Pastor Emi, for that message. A lot of it was really, really good. And I'm sure that even just by looking at the comment sections, that there are actually quite a lot of questions that people ask. So I think the way we'll do it, because I've seen some questions come through already, is that if you could please raise your hands um, through Zoom, that will allow us to pick you, and then Pastor Adeyemi can, of course, answer your question. And we'll make space that if you have a follow-up question for that same question, we'll allow you to ask that as well, but it has to be very short so that other people can also ask those questions. I've seen that somebody's asked, can we type? Please, it's easy to get lost in so many questions if you're typing. It's best you just raise your hand and we'll try and get to everybody within the time allocated. And yeah, we'll follow up from there. So please, I'm just looking now. If you have any questions, just raise your hands and I'll pick you. So in the group chat, it seems that Kachi Emilogu, excuse me for not pronouncing the name correctly. You had a question. Did you want to articulate the question further here, or I can just read it out from the chat?
Please read it out. That's just the question I have.
Yeah, so Kachi asks, when do we need police certificates? Is there a context to that? Maybe some part of the presentation that you're referring to?
I think I got this thing.
Okay.
You need police certificate whenever you are applying for Australia visa. But the point I was referring to was the post-study visa. All right, that there's the requirement of post-study visa is that you must have applied for a police certificate before you apply for that visa. But don't do it on the same day. You have to do it. You have to apply for your visa a day after you have applied for your police certificate. You don't have to have it, but just apply and show evidence that you've already applied for it. Okay. Say for example, you want to apply for your visa tomorrow, your post-study visa tomorrow. You need to have applied for your police certificate today, and it has to be Australian Federal Police Certificate, not the one you use for employment check. That's the state one. Don't apply for the state. Apply for Australia Federal Police Certificate and indicate for immigration purposes. So you'll be fine. Yeah, that's I guess that was what the person was trying to ask.
Thank you, sir. If there's no follow-up question to that, I'll go to the next person. Anome also asked the question. He or she stated, if someone is a student and finishing in November, currently on a bridging visa and has applied for a student visa extension but not yet out, can the person apply for the 190 visa straight as the person is in a regional place, such as Northern Territory, studying social works?
Oh, yes. If you have time and you have your skill assessment, you meet everything, you can apply. So long, for example, if you are invited and you meet the requirements, you have everything ready. Why not? You don't have to wait for your student visa to be granted, before you apply for another visa that you are eligible for. But the issue is that the question is, are you eligible for it? Make sure you're eligible for it. Make sure you have your skill assessment. Make sure you have your English ready, English test ready. Make sure you express interest, and of course, you get the invitation before you apply for it. For 190 specifically, I know if you are in Northern Territory, you have to meet the requirements of Northern Territory. If you study with them, you need to also wait for a few months, live there for at least 6 months before you can apply. That's their rule that I know. Although they do change, all these states, they have rules that they bring out every year. So that may change in this financial year. No state has brought out their rules or their requirements for this financial year. So you have to wait for it. But for your student visa, I'm interested in that. Please, you need to ring the department, follow them up with maybe like email, because tell them that your visa will be expiring. You will be finishing in November, because the danger is if you finish your program and if it is more than 6 months without a student if it is more than 6 months you had a student visa, you cannot apply for post-study visa. So you have to apply for post-study visa within 6 months when your last student visa expired. Let me say that again. If you need to apply for post-study visa not more than 6 months since your last student visa expired. And guess what? If you finish your course before your visa, decision is taken on your visa, your student visa will not be granted anymore. Because once you finish your course, it will alert the department that your COE has expired. So there won't be any grant for the, issuance of your visa anymore, or granting of your visa. So I will call the department, I will send them mail, please send, take the decision on my decision, kindly take decision on my, because my course will soon finish and I don't want to become unlawful. If you put it that way with courtesy, they should consider it.
Thank you, sir. I've recognized some people in the group that have put their hands up. Just before I go to them, there's just one more question in the group chat before we go to the people who have raised their hands. SK asks, bachelor's in community service is not accredited. Is that correct or incorrect?
No, bachelor, maybe is specific about a particular school now. If check, there's a way to check this. Just go to HAQUA website, check the list of accredited programs, okay? And ensure that your program is accredited. If your program is not accredited, then there's danger in it. So what that means is that you have to, have work experience before you can be given positive skill assessment. So you need to be sure, check it. You can check that on HAQUA website.
Thank you, Sam. It seems like Victoria Adekomaya has a question.
Yes, thank you, Pastor. I'm from South Africa, and I'm here to ask a question regarding to the permanent resident. If someone have a PhD, or what stream can someone go through for a PhD holder?
Are you onshore or you are offshore?
I'm offshore. I'm in
Offshore.
South Africa.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So now it depends. There's a stream for of course, like I mentioned, general scheme migration. You need to check the criteria and see whether you meet that criteria. If you are above 45, that shows you cannot use that pathway. All right. However,
Yes, I'm
there's
above.
another. Okay, you're above. All right. There's another stream there's another visa called Global Talent Visa. All right. It's for those who are considered as that are considered talented in their fields of endeavor. But there are sectors that are in demand in Australia. They call them critical sectors. There are 11 of them. Either energy sector, ICT sector, cybersecurity, space and advanced manufacturing, all sort of earth technology, agri technology, fintech, and the requirement is you have to be talented. And who are those who are considered talented? People who have done a lot of work and that maybe written publications about their work, which PhD, of course, it sounds like it, but you need to be sure that your feed is related to any of those sectors, and also you have capacity to earn, or you are currently earning above the threshold in Australia. At the income threshold, I think it's about $162,000 now. I don't know if that has increased. So if you are currently earning that amount, or you have capacity to attract that, and your sector is related to any of those sectors I mentioned, there are 11 of them. You can check it on their website. So then before you can say you will be eligible or not. But the expression of interest is free. Give it a go. This financial year, the number allocated for that last visa is 4,000. Last year was 5,000. So this financial year is 4,000. Why not? Give it a go. Expression of interest is free. Just express interest. Who knows? You may be given an invitation. And once you are given an invitation, you don't need skill assessment for it. You don't even need English test. All you need is functional English test. And what is functional English test? So long you are taught and studied in English. And then if you're, say for example, if you have passport of South Africa, I think you'll be waived. Yeah, I think you are considered. So yeah, easy. Give it a go. And we can assess you to know whether you're, because I know once I see a CV, I can assess it to know whether you're eligible or not, just to give you my advice, expert advice on it. But one thing I say, do tell people whether I say yes or no, give it a go.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll just move on to the next person. The name is Android Blue Droid.
Thank you. Well, my name is Adibayo. I'm from Nigeria. I reside in Nigeria. I'm a medical practitioner. So I think I joined a little bit late. I want to know the best way, apart from study, maybe resident permit to enter Australia.
Okay, for medical practitioners, I guess you are a doctor, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, beautiful. So the pathway for doctors, is mainly through, is either you get a job here, you can't just come in straight away to Australia as a doctor. You must get your registration with Australia, with APRA registration before you can full registration before you can use that pathway to get through before you can use skill migration. Now, for you to get TAPRA registration, you need to write the exam. Okay? If you're a specialist, if you're a consultant, there are specialist pathway as well. So for doctors, I believe you need to get in touch with any doctor's friend that you may have, okay, to guide you through the exam. Or you can go to their website, Australia Medical Council, AMC. The exam is called AMC exam. So you need to write that. If you pass that exam, I think they write that exam in South Africa. I think that also in the UK as well. If you pass that exam, you can then look for jobs in Australia. A lot of doctors have migrated to Australia through that pathway from overseas. Look for jobs particularly in the regional areas of Australia. They need doctors a lot. And then if you have PLAB 1 and 2 in the UK, and you work in the UK, you can also move into Australia. I think these are ways through which doctors can move to Australia, but you can't just come in through skill migration. And or the other way is if you are still young, say under 35, say if you are 31, you can come in through study pathway. Yeah, but if you're older than 35, I won't advise that because you won't be eligible for post-study visa. Or else you can come in and use that to come into Australia and then go through the exam pathway. That's the advice I can give.
Okay, thank you very much, Pastor.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Sheyi, you have a question?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
From Brisbane. Thank you for this great opportunity. I'm already a resident, but then I'm asking questions for my other family member that are in the process of coming. Well, first thing first, I guess getting advice is very important. Are you able to actually give us your contact so that we can actually, because obviously I can't answer my questions here, otherwise I will take 5 hours. So if you can give us your contact so we can actually speak to you after, then I think that would be better, but maybe for the sake of every other person, if someone is my question is that if someone is coming in to Australia, what would be your advice? What would be the shortest way to actually get into like from Nigeria to PR in Australia? Like the shortest way. That's my question.
Yeah, it depends on the circumstances of the individual. For example, if the person has skill in the occupation list that is related to the occupation list, the person can explore skill migration pathway. So long the person is under 45 and meets those mandatory criteria, can use skill migration. Although it may be longer, but it's the cheapest. All right. It may be longer, but it's the cheapest. Then another way is through study, But if the person is older than 30, 32, I won't advise study pathway now because of post-study visa, age restriction on post-study visa. Yeah, so it depends on the circumstances of the individual.
Can I ask follow-up question or not?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So this is someone that's like a lawyer. So I guess lawyers do not have those skills, right? So
yeah. For lawyers, they are own tool because the jurisdiction where they study is different. Okay, Australia, if overseas trained lawyers, they also need to take some subjects here before they can be eligible for this skill migration as a solicitor or barrister. So which may take them about 2 years. So what lawyers do mainly is to come through study. Or if someone may study law and then have some other skill occupations like company secretary, for example, or contract administrator. It does not matter. So long they have work experience in occupations related to skill occupation, they can use those other occupations rather than coming as a lawyer.
All right, can we get access to your contacts, please? Is it
Yes,
possible?
I think the coordinator or the organizer can share my contact.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you all. There's still time for more questions. I just wanted to use this time to remind everybody that we have recorded this video, so we'll be posting it on the RCCG YASM Queensland YouTube page. So for those who missed part of the program, we'll be posting it on our YouTube page so that you can rewatch it. We'll also, within the YouTube page, in the comment section or in the detail section, we'll state Pastor Adeyemi's contact details for you to reach out to him. So please do not be afraid. We'll definitely repost this, and we'll also find a way to reach out in terms of contact details. We'll also put the YASM email on the in the chat group, and you can just send an email to us and we'll reply back with his contacts or any further questions you may have. We'll just move on to the next individual. Mrs. K, you have a question.
Thank you so much, sir. My question is that if you want to sponsor a sibling, for example, is there any restriction, and they have a spouse, do they have any restrictions?
Okay, so when you say sponsor, are you referring to student or family sponsor visa, which is
Yes,
for
family.
491? Is it regional
Yes,
sponsor?
the family sponsor.
Okay, so there's only one family sponsor, the visa for visa 491, which is a regional provisional visa. So the sponsor must be living in the regional area. So
Okay.
if you are not living in the regional area, you can't sponsor a family member. Say, for example, you live in the regional area. There are other, the person that you want to sponsor must meet the requirements of that visa. In other words, he or she must be under 45. He or she must have skill assessment. He or she must meet at least 50, points on his or her own. Then you would give the individual 15 points.
Okay.
So it's not just straightforward. On their own, they must be eligible for 491 visa.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Samuel, you have a question.
Yeah. Just to shed more light on what you said about post-study visa regarding 6 months validity after your program. Do you mean like if someone is finishing the program by October and is supposed to, and he still has a visa valid till June? So
June the following year, right?
when is the timeline? If you like, for example, I'm a research student and my date of submission is October, and my visa expires June next year. So
Okay.
when is the timeline, like the range of maybe applying for study? So that's one. And secondly is based on Queensland's criteria of getting work experience in-country work experience.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other regions that don't require you? And if you're graduate, there are some graduates of other provinces that you don't need to show work experience. But Queensland is saying you need to show work experience in your field, which we know that the jobs are not even relatively, they're not available. So are there other regions that if you show, you don't need to graduate from there, if you show EOI, that there are possibilities of you getting an invitation?
Beautiful. See, I get to answer this most times. This particular the questions you have. Okay, now I would say it is easier for someone from overseas to apply to other states than someone who is onshore in a particular state to other states. So all the states have their requirements, and most of them exclude people who live in other states. Almost, I think the only state that I know that does not have that requirement that you can just apply to directly if they invite you is Western Australia. All other states, you have to be living in those states, meet the requirements for their regional sponsorship before they can invite you. So that's the answer to that question. Now, your first question on the timeline before you apply for post-study visa. Post-study now is okay. Once you must apply for your post-study visa within 6 months after the completion of your program. Within 6 months.
So
It
when you
must
talk
not
about
exceed
completion, sorry to cut
completion
you.
is when you get your completion letter.
Okay.
When you are advised that you have fulfilled the requirements of the course and you are issued a completion letter. Say, for example, if it's, I don't know, if you are done, if you be completing your program in October and you get your completion letter in October, even though you still have visa, say till June next year, you cannot wait till June next year. The cutoff time for you to apply for your post-study visa is March. That will be when it is within 6 months. If it exceeds that, you've lost that opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
It has to be applied for within 6 months when you get your completion letter or when you are advised that you've completed your program. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll go to the next question. Matt.
All right, thank you very much. I just want to ask that is it advisable to sponsor a sibling via a student, via studying, coming here to study, and sponsoring both the sibling and the spouse? So I'm aware that one of the biggest limitation is the statement of account. So in the event that you have enough statement of account, is it advisable to sponsor both the sibling and the spouse for a study visa?
Okay, good. So if it's only one person that will be the primary applicant anyway, the spouse will be the dependent on the student, on the main applicant. So in that case, all you need to do is to provide the statement of account, sufficient funds for your proof of fund to the tune of it has to be around $102,000. That's what is acceptable in this current financial year, $102,000, and that covers both spouse, both main applicant and the spouse. Now, who is a sponsor? It is defined. A sponsor is either the parents or the partner, the spouse of the applicant. Where we may say siblings have been sponsoring and have been going away with it. That's true. But in the regulation, the definition of a sponsor is a partner of the primary applicant or the parents. But for sibling, if you do that, it's a risk, but it's not impossible.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Just a reminder, I know some people are putting questions in the group chat. We're putting a preference for those who raise their hands. But if you leave your questions in the group chat, we'll try and reach them. But please, it's preferred that you please put your hands up. We'll move on to the next person. The name is Crytenix. Yes, Kritexinc. Yes, thank you.
Yes, good evening from here.
Good evening.
My name is Kenneth, actually. My wife migrated to Australia last year in November through the study route, but the information we got then I joined because I'm based in Dubai. I could join. Later on, we applied December because she left in November. We applied December, met all the requirements, but the visa was rejected based on the only message written there was intent to stay in Australia. So that was the message there. So now we've been considering other options since February that we got the message. She's still studying there. So I'm looking at, can we apply for a permanent residence through maybe if she applied for social work because she's studying business management stroke education, if she can do social work course alongside, because a friend of mine was telling me about it, that she can do a social work course. It will be easy for PR instead of business management as masters. Then on the other hand, is there any advice for me as the spouse? Because I can't join her except she's coming to visit.
Yeah, so it's really unfortunate that that happened. Of course, what he should have done in the first instance is to have applied together. All right. Now they are focusing mainly on Nigerian applicants, but unfortunately, not only Nigerians, the other nationalities like Indians and others. So the rate of refusal is really high now. So for Nigerian, out of 10, maybe 4 have been granted out of 10. So what I will advise is first of all, your wife has to switch her course to that social work. That course she's currently studying will not help her to get PR. So social work we do, all right. So I will advise she should, switch. And then if she switches to social work, they will give her a COE, a new COE. She can use that COE to apply, do a joint application together with you and the family. That way, they may grant all of you. That way, very possible. They may grant all of you. But I've seen a situation before now, that they granted someone onshore and excluded, they refused the family members offshore, just because, it's a decision they took. And, their decision is the final. Okay, but that's another way. Who knows whether this time around all of you will be granted, and that way you can join your family. So if that does not happen, then you just wait for her to complete her program. She'll be eligible, if she's still younger than 35 by the time she completes her program, she'll be eligible for post-study visa. And once she gets her own post-study visa, she can then apply for your own. Okay.
That means sorry to cut you short. That means you are saying, because the only thing we are just thinking of now is not taking another risk, and at the end of the day she loses her study visa because
why would she lose her student visa?
Yeah,
she's
because
onshore already.
She's onshore already, and the lawyer and the advisors we were using, they were giving us a 50-50 chance on it.
That's
Actually,
what.
she's studying in Brisbane. But the problem is with Brisbane policy, they don't give out a second COE except the person is studying in that same school. And in Brisbane, they don't have social work. They have it in, I think, another campus or another university. Yes. So
So
that is where the issue is coming from.
is she still on younger than 35?
She will be 30 this
August, she's
November.
still young. So
Yes.
see, you can change schools, okay?
Okay.
But you just have to stay with the first school for at least 6 months. Although they try to discourage it,
Okay.
but it's not impossible. So provided that she's able to get COE, give it a go. Try it again. Why not? Refusal is not a crime. You can have refusal multiple times and still be granted another visa. There are visas that your refusal do not matter anymore. I mean, no matter how many refusals you've got in the past, will not affect subsequent one. For example, if you want to apply for PR, it will not stop it, even though you've had refusal before. The only where they will refuse you is maybe if you are trying to do multiple student visa applications. That's the only thing.
Okay. 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 Thank you very much. I understood better now. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next person. Please, just a reminder, if you've already asked the question and you still have your arms raised up, can you please put your hand down so that I can be sure who is still asking a question? Thank you. We'll move on to Anifo will say, I believe. Okay, we might come back to he or she later. Onyeka, you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Apart from the option of showing course progression through PhD for someone above 35 and alongside studying learning trade, is there any other option?
Well, the other option would be maybe if you have skill and you have an employer that is willing to sponsor you, go for it.
Okay.
Or DAMA.
What's DAMA?
Yeah, so designated agreement, you know, there's a visa, it's a temporary visa, but it will lead to, there's a pathway to PR. And Queensland, for example, has that. There's some regional areas in Queensland that have DAMA agreement. So DAMA agreement is like a labor agreement with the government, okay? But the requirements for DAMA is really less compared to skilled migration. So what you will get is employer sponsored visa, which is 482 visa. And DAMA does not, the age requirement for DAMA is above 50. Some 55, some 51, 53, as the case may be. You understand? And they have all sorts of occupations. People that work in disability sectors, for example, can approach the employer and they can be sponsored for DAMA. Right? We have regional, mostly this is in the regional areas. You can't get DAMA in the city. You have to be in the region to get DAMA. That's the pathway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll move on to the next person. Sorry, just a reminder, please, if you've asked the question, just remember to put your hands down unless you have a second question. And if you have a second question, we'll have to come back to you after we've reached to everybody else. The next person, Emeka.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for this wonderful section. My question is very straightforward. For those of us that will be doing 485, after the 485, like you have advised, that we can go for trade courses, some other occupation that's under the priority list. You know, it's a fact that is very, very competitive now. So in the space of 2 years, it's very possible you don't get an invite. So what do you do when your visa elapses or expires.
On 485.
Yes.
Yes, so as you can see that recently they stopped visa hopping.
Yes.
Onshore. So there won't be any other choice than to go offshore and try again and try student visa again. But you can be sure how hard that may be. So what I will advise, try and utilize the post-study visa well. Trade occupations are less competitive. Trades occupations are less competitive. I showed, during my presentation, the last invitation that was done on the 13th of June. A lot of, applicants with 65 points were invited, carpenters, plumbers, painters, they were invited. And guess what? Some of these courses are just 6 months, you are done, or max 1 year. So like I advise that the second year of study, these courses should be, one should have commenced these courses. Your second year of study, you can take them along. I don't know how often they go to classes, but I know it may not be as rigorous as that. Okay, but you need job-ready program, which is 1 year, and it's a full time. So your first year of your post-study visa, if you do that job-ready program, at the end of the day, you'll be set. You get your skill assessment done, and then you can claim points with that job-ready program. And that you have options. At least option 1, you can use your trade occupation. Option 2, you can use your skill. But I can assure you that skill independent visa 189 is highly, highly competitive.
That's true.
Yeah, but trades are less competitive. Yeah, that's what most Indians do. Nepalese, that's what they do. That's why they get invitation more than Africans, because we don't want to do all those trade courses. Number one, some of us look down on them. I remember a case of a sister in my church who studied environmental management, but because I know that environmental management will not lead her to anything unless she's able to get a job. She had an issue with her visa, which allowed her to buy time in Australia. She appealed the case, and she had enough time. I advise her, please go and do commercial cookery to become a chef. And that was what she did. And she used chef to apply for a PR. She was given a PR as a chef. But chef these days is highly competitive too. I wouldn't advise people to go through that route. So, but all those other trades, painter, plumber, electrician, go for it. And as a female, I know females should be able to do painting. Go for it. Use whatever you can do. You can use just to cross the bridge. They won't write it on you that you are doing plumbing. Who cares about what you do? Yeah, that would be my advice.
Okay, Daddy, a follow-up question quickly. On the trade occupation, if you finish the study, let's say the 6-month study, do you also need like maybe experience?
Like I said, you need what we call job-ready program. It's a paid experience. You'll be working, gaining experience, and you can use that. You can claim points from it as well. You'll be paid.
Is that easy to get here in Australia?
Why not? Go and check in some states how much they need tradies. They need those trades occupation like anything. Even in New South Wales.
Okay, Daddy.
No worries.
Daddy, for those of us that are past 35, that are applying for a new student visa, for a new course, based on the fact that our study is expiring, what will you advise? Because most people have been applying for admission to get maybe a master's by research, to get the doctorate, and it's not forthcoming.
You keep trying. I know that will definitely be a school that wants to take such people. So keep trying. Okay, if you try one school, there are several schools that you can try. And don't limit yourself to where you are, your location. Extend it to other locations, particularly regional areas, because of the advantages you get in those places.
Okay, thank you so
That
much,
would be
Dad.
my advice. Yeah.
Thank you. We're just noticing that we're running short of time, and we obviously don't want to keep Pastor Adeyemi waiting too long. So we'll just ask a few more questions before we round up. Annie Fose, I think, sorry, apologies if I'm not pronouncing it correctly, or Damilola, you have a question.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful. Two questions quickly. Number one, as a lawyer, can one decide to study a lawyer with a few experience in public health, volunteer works in public health, immunization and all? Can one decide to study a diploma in enrolled nursing? And what is the likelihood of getting a student visa in that situation?
Yeah, so I
Then
can tell you for free that they will bounce the visa because coming from degree to do a nurse diploma, no, it won't fly.
Okay. What about a master's in social work or something?
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, I know lawyers that do that, so that sounds good. That sounds better.
Okay. Then number two, are there opportunities for doctors who have passed AMC1 to work in Australia?
Yes, so all you need to do, apply for jobs. Apply for jobs, to probably consider regional areas of Australia. Apply a lot of. I have seen doctors who migrated here, just passing AMC1. In fact, there was this doctor that came from Saudi Arabia recently, She came in to write the exam and passed it. And as God will have it, she got a job and she's here now. So that's what you need to do. AMC1, pass it, then look for jobs. You will definitely get one. And recently too, a physiotherapist also came into the country through employer sponsor visa. And let me also mention this: if Australia is difficult, you can go through New Zealand, probably for those health-related occupations like nurses, physiotherapists, radiographers, any health-related this thing. You can go through New Zealand. They have there's arrangement between Australia and New Zealand. So such that if you are registered in New Zealand, you can practice in Australia.
Okay, so sorry to ask. So what you are saying now is once one is done with one study in New Zealand, it's easy to cross to Australia with the certification or the qualification.
I'm not saying study in New Zealand. I'm saying do their registration pathway. Those doctors and health-related this thing. Get their registration in New Zealand, then you can practice in Australia. It's easier to cross to Australia.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
No worries.
Okay. We'll move on next to Adeoye, but after that, we might just ask one or two more questions from the comment section before we close up our session. Okay. Perhaps the question is not necessary anymore. One of the questions in the comment section states, what are the criteria for sponsor of parents before their retirement age?
Okay, so for parents, there are two parents visa. We have age parent visa. That one, the parent must meet retirement age, which is 67. Then there's another one, contributory parent visa. So that one, the parent does not need to meet the retirement age. However, there is what we call balance of family test, which both they have to meet both anyway, whether age parent visa or contributory parent visa. Balance of family test. So what that means is that half of the children must be Australians. Half of the children of the parent must be Australians. So maybe if the parents have four children, two of them must be Australian. If they have 5 children, 3 of them must be Australians. Okay, that's very important. But the processing time for that is about 12 years, and the fees for that is about $50,000, 49,000 plus. Yeah, $50,000 per one parent. So the other one, the age parent, the processing time is 30 years, and it's about $6,000. Yeah, that's the major requirement.
Thank you, sir. We'll just ask one last question. Apologies for others who haven't been able to ask their question. Just one last question. And we'll go to Ugu.
Okay, sir. Good evening, sir. Thank you again for the session. So I'm not exactly sure I understood what you meant when you were talking about the waiting for a new visa, student visa before you apply for 485. So in particular, my case, a new visa was in application. I had filed for a new visa to finish up. It didn't come out, and then it didn't come out, and then I finished school. So and then I now also filed for 485. So I don't know, is there any issue with that?
Okay, so what I've explained is there's for 485, the requirement is you must hold a student visa before you apply for 485, or your last student visa that you had is no more than 6 months ago.
It's not more than 6 months
6
ago.
months. Yep.
Okay. So
I
that's
hope you got that. So if
yeah.
it is more than 6 months ago, then it becomes an invalid application. And unfortunately is that they don't get back on time. It may be 3 months after. They'll just get back to the applicant. Sorry, you submitted an invalid application.
Okay, mine wasn't more than 6 months.
Yep.
And then secondly is I finished the master's. I have a community service program running that will finish in December. Both of them were done here in Sydney. Do I need to go elsewhere to where am I going to be doing my assessment in? I'm going to be doing
No, once you are done with your community program, I just play with you, please. Your placement part, make sure you do it well. Okay, don't miss a day in your placement. Tick all the boxes relating to your placement. Don't use disability support work for placement. It has to be related to community services. Once you do that, and keep your feed reports, keep it intact, because you will need it during your application. Now, during your assessment application. So once you are done, you have your transcript, you have your completion letter, then you can apply for your assessment. And once you have assessment, then you can express interest and then wait for invitations. All right. Regional area, it could be regional invitation, it could be state, depending on the opportunity that comes. But during my presentation, you can see that the focus in this financial year will be on employer sponsor visa, on regional visa, and on state nominated visa. Skill independent is like a no-go. It's going to be competitive. That's for visa 189. So visa 190 will be more popular than 189 in this financial year.
So if somebody decides, if I decide to move to a regional at this time, would it still count for me?
So for region, for example, if you live in New South Wales, they have requirements. Okay, the region, let me use the last financial year. So last financial year, what they did, they had two pathways. They had one which is applied direct application to the regional areas. And that one, the key requirement is that you need to be working in your nominated occupation or closely related with an employer in the regional area for at least minimum of 12 months. And it has to be one employer only. But they later changed it to 6 months. Okay, that's direct application to the region. Then the other pathway is through invitation by the state. Through invitation by the state. So these are the two pathways they have. So this financial year, they will bring out new guidelines, new requirements soon, maybe from August, because New South Wales is always slower compared to other states. They will release their requirements. So I will say wait until you see the requirements, because I remember 2023 June, they did massive invitation. Almost everybody that live in New South Wales that had their skill assessment, that had at least 65 points, almost those people were invited.
For community work.
Even for community work, everybody was invited, everyone. As a matter of fact, that same year, New South Wales gave community workers 190. They needed them like anything. That was last year. So I would say, wait for the requirements to be released before you take your decision.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Pastor Adeyemi, for all you've done. Unfortunately, everyone, our session has come to an end. Apologies for those that couldn't ask any questions in today's session, but I want to remind you that we will be posting this recorded session on our YouTube page, and I'm just sending it into the chat now that you can see. So we'll be posting it on the YouTube page by hopefully the end of tomorrow, if not by Tuesday, so that anybody who is seeking to watch it, or anybody else within the community that is seeking to watch it, you can send them towards that YouTube channel and they can watch it. Also within the comment section, please ask any questions you have. We will direct Pastor Adeyemi to the comment section in due course, and he'll be able to see them and he can reply there. Or you can even drop your email within the comment section and he will also try and reach out to you. At the same time, I've also dropped our YASM email that is there. Please, if you have any further questions, if you want to reach out to us, Pastor Adeyemi, please reach out through the email. Or maybe I might even ask, Pastor Adeyemi, is there a way that you'd prefer for people to reach out to you? Any way that you'd prefer?
Yes, I'm reachable through WhatsApp, and that's the easiest way for me. But then I may not, if I do not get back to you on time, just give me some time, because I get a lot of inquiries. All right. So, and don't call me on it. Just send message. I will definitely get back. Yes.
Okay, so perhaps what we can do is that Pastor Adeyemi will pass us his contact, and those who have any questions will send across his number to you. And please, as he stated, if you could please be courteous, send a quick message. Please do not call him, as he also is a very busy person as well. So he will try and endeavor to reply to you as soon as possible. Again, thank you for everybody that has come in today's program. I hope everybody is blessed and has really enjoyed some of the insight we received from today's session. I know that even me, that some of the thoughts that I had, just based on Pastor Adeyemi's question, I have new questions because he has reversed some of the thoughts that I previously held or preconceptions. So Pastor Adeyemi, we just want to thank you for that. We appreciate you taking your time, dedicating your time. This is 2 hours, and it's not easy to give up 2 hours. So we really, really appreciate you taking the time. We also want to thank you. Thank you, sir. We also want to thank everybody else who has also made the time to arrive today. I want to appreciate you for coming over, asking questions. You don't know that some of the questions you've asked in this session has probably helped a lot of people as well who are also on this program, who also have the same questions as well, and even those who watch this program online later. So we really appreciate you. I also understand, Pastor Adeyemi, that you are also taking on clients. Am I correct in understanding that?
Oh, definitely. I'm not doing a pro bono. So what that means, if you call me afterwards and you need consultation, so we can have a session. It could be 30 minutes, it could be 1 hour, depending, but it's going to be paid consultation. How you pay consultation for lawyers or agents in Australia. So same applies.
Sorry, sir. Did you have like a website that they can?
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Migration is my website. Let me just put it there.
Yeah, if you can drop it into the chat, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll just quickly close in a word of prayer just for this session. Father in heaven, Lord, we just want to thank you for today. We want to thank you for these wonderful words your faithful servant has brought to us, Lord. He has not done this out of his own selfishness or out of any preconceived notion to earn money or anything from this. He has done it out of his free will for the benefit of those who are here to listen, Lord. We just pray that as he's given to us freely so that we can benefit and gain more insight, you also bless him and give greater insight into his life and all that he does for other people. We just ask that from today's session, everybody goes out being blessed, reaching a lot of insight. And I pray that we are able to use it, not just even for ourselves, but we can also help those of us around us from what we've learned today, Lord. We just want to thank you for Pastor Adeyemi, and we even thank you for those who are able to make it, Lord. We thank you for all you've done in this session for us. For in Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you all again for coming around. Again, Pastor Adeyemi, we are really humbled by your presence, and we thank you for all you've done. And, we've just thought that given how successful this session has been and the number of people who have come over, please reach out to us by email if you have any other thoughts about other sessions like this, like you'd like to have, maybe more about how to get into Australia, or even any other question that you think would be benefits to you or the community. Just send us an email to YASM at rccgjesusworshipcenter.org.au. I've dropped the email in the chat session, so please send us an email and we'll endeavor to put a program like that together again. Thank you all for coming together today. Please have a blessed week, and thank you again, Pastor Adeyemi.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.